Hey everybody, Jay here from Square Pegs. Welcome back to the channel. If you are a returning viewer, welcome to the channel if you're a new viewer. Today we're going back to my series where I look at 10 games on the Nintendo Switch eShop. I usually call this Hidden Gems. Today that doesn't really apply. So let's take a look at 10 fantastic games you should be playing on the Switch eShop. And as always, thank you to the publishers who provided review codes for this month's video.
Okay, so full disclosure, I will tell you I am suggesting this game even though I will admit to being friends with the developer, and that is Nintendo, who created C.A.R.L. Talked about it on the channel in the past, but I've never featured it on an eShop Hidden Gems. And since this gets a lot more traffic than my review of that video did, I wanted to suggest it here. C.A.R.L. is legitimately one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch. It's an absolutely brilliant title that blends a wonderful sense of humor with a fantastic sense of style, incredible music, and challenging gameplay to make one of the most complete and enjoyable platforming experiences I have had in years. It's a love letter to games like Cave Story and Super Paper Mario. The characters are memorable, the gameplay is fantastic, the design is just wonderful. It's got such a sense of style and such an incredible layout and presentation that I can't tell you enough how much I love it. It is legitimately one of my favorite games. I've bought it a couple of times now. I've got it on Switch and on PC. It's something that I just really love. If you have not played C.A.R.L., it's definitely worth checking out. There is going to be a physical coming out eventually from Premium Edition Games, good friends of mine as well, but you can pick it up on the eShop for $14.99. And I know Drew's working on some free DLC that's going to be doing some balance improvements and things like that, so it's an excellent game with a lot of potential to be just something truly incredible. It's one of my favorites. If there's one thing I'm thankful for in modern gaming, it's the slight resurgence of full-motion video-based games. Whether it's something kind of irreverent and silly like Not for Broadcast, or something like this game here, the Eishtide Hotel, which is a very mysterious and kind of dark investigatory title, it's something I appreciate. First off, I want to thank the publisher for the review code on this one. This is an interactive mystery. You play as a father who goes to the Eishtide Hotel in order to retrieve your daughter, Eleanor. She's been gathered by a cult, and every 3 years, this hotel opens to the cult where a certain series of events has to take place. It's up to you how you're going to infiltrate it. It's up to you how you're going to interact with everybody. It's up to you how you're going to move through things. It's a massively deep game. There's 7 main endings with 14 different outcomes, side quests which have their own dedicated endings. It's a decidedly deep game with a really dark undertone, which I really, really enjoy. And the cast is amazing. Everyone is just acting their ass off in this game. Eishtide Hotel is $19.99, and it's legitimately one of the most intriguing games I've played in a long time. A fantastic title. You guys know how much I love collections of video games. I do love a good compilation title, and this one is a fantastic collection of Taito arcade games. This is Taito Milestones 2. And I want to thank the publisher for providing a review copy for this one because you get an awesome selection of games on this. It's got 10 different games on it, and I want to tell you which ones they are. First up, you get the New Zealand story, which is known as Kiwi Craze on the NES. It's a fantastic kind of action-y maze game where you have to go through as a Kiwi and rescue your girlfriend. Kiki Kai Kai is better known as Pocky and Rocky. It's a vertical shooter, kind of action-adventure game. It's really fun. Gun Frontier is a vertical shooter where you're going to be playing as a gun-shaped spaceship, going through and defeating enemies. Ben Barobet is actually my favorite one on here, which I had never played before this, but I'm having a lot of fun with. You play as a superhero, and a fire breaks out in the building. You need to rescue your girlfriend, so you have to put the fires out. Legend of Kage is the arcade original. It's a spectacular title and a ton of fun to play. Liquid Kids feels kind of like a sequel to Kiwi Craze. It plays a little bit differently, but it just feels similar to me. You use your bubbles to capture enemies, kick them down the hill, and defeat other ones. Solitary Fighter is a fairly standard 2D beat-em-up fighting hybrid. Dino Rex is a fighting game where you play as dinosaurs. This one is the only one that really didn't click for me and just not having a lot of fun with it. And Metal Black is another shooter. And there's also one other one on here that I have experienced some issues with, and that's Darius 2. I've had a couple of crashes when I'm playing this. I don't know if it's my system or it's something with the build, so just be aware that there is a crash out there, and like I said, it could just be my system, but I have run into it, and I want to let you guys know about it. Overall, though, I absolutely recommend this game. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful collection of some absolutely wonderful arcade classics. And for $39.99, you can't go wrong. I love the Puzzle Bobble series. It's one of my all-time favorite game franchises, and I really feel so fortunate that I was given a review code for Puzzle Bobble Every Bubble, because it's a franchise I adore. And it really felt like a pat on the back for the work I put into the channel over the last few years, because to get a code from Taito is kind of mind-blowing to me. If you have not played it, it is essentially a match 3 puzzle, but what you have is you have a machine at the bottom that you're able to move back and forth, left and right, and you shoot bubbles at an angle, and you're able to bounce them off the walls, and you need to match colors to make bubbles disappear. And it's brilliant. It's just such simple gameplay. It's something that everyone can look at and understand. It's something that I love. It's something my wife loves. It's something everyone I know who's ever played Puzzle Bobble enjoys. And not only is there a great solo player experience, there's wonderful multiplayer modes as well, including a cooperative story mode, which is super cool. But my favorite bonus feature in this entire game is Puzzle Bobble versus Space Invaders, which is just incredible. It's exactly what it sounds like. You get to play as whatever character you choose, Bob or Bob at the bottom, and as you move left and right, you're going to shoot bubbles at the invading aliens. It's difficult, it's challenging, it's something completely different than Puzzle Bobble has ever done before, and it's amazing. This is a $39.99 game, and I have had so much fun with this one. It's amazing. Look, I am an absolute sucker for a good roguelite, and I also happen to be a huge fan of Arthurian legends, so when I saw that there was a roguelite about the Arthur legend, I was in, and want to thank the publisher for providing a review code for Knight vs. Giant the Broken Excalibur, because, man, is it fun, and it looks so pretty, and it's got such a great sense of humor. This is exactly what I want in a roguelite. It's difficult, but it's not so difficult that you want to stop playing, like I've experienced with some other roguelites in the past. The story is compelling enough, but just irreverent enough that it's not taking itself too seriously, but I'm curious what's going to happen next, because it doesn't handhold. Like, there's definitely some hints of a particular character's motivations and their expectations and goals, and maybe that character is not exactly what they seem. Come on now, Merlin, be better than that. But I do dig this game. It's a very, very fun title. Lots of different levels, lots of different abilities you're able to get as you go through the game. You're going to find some of the different Knights of the Round Table that have been turned into statues and have died, and you're able to inherit their powers. And kind of like Hades, as you play through, you're going to collect different abilities that add on to your character that give you different bonuses as you play. Absolutely love it. Fantastic title. $19.99. I can't suggest this one enough.
It's an illustrated book about birds.
It's been left open. Looks like
I first played Tangle Tower on Apple Arcade, of all things, on my iPad, and when I saw that it had released on the Switch, I was very excited about it, because it's a game that really left a lasting impression for me from the iPad, and that takes a really kind of special experience for it to really make that much of an impact for me from a mobile perspective. But Tangle Tower was something really special. First off, the art design on the game is incredible. The voice acting in the game is magnificent, and it's just a really fun game that involves solving a mystery and piecing clues together and interviewing memorable characters in fantastical scenarios in unbelievable environments that just really make a game memorable. You start off investigating the murder of a young girl who was stabbed to death, but the problem is the murder weapon is in a painting she was working on, and not in the physical world. So the intrigue kind of spirals from there. It's got a really good interface. You can play with touch controls, you can play with Joy-Cons. It's very much a game that is optimized for the Nintendo Switch, and it just runs beautifully well. It's a $19.99 title. If that does give you pause, as I did mention, it was a mobile game originally. Toss it on a wish list. I've seen it on sale for as little as $3.99, and it's definitely worth the price of admission. If you dig mystery games, check this one out.
Wearing your clothes. Eating.
No, that's the weird part. I mean, isn't it like...
Oxenfree was suggested to me by my friend Corey when I featured Batman the Telltale series a few months ago on the Switch eShop's Hidden Gems video, and when I started playing it, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little bit curious as to why, because this didn't feel like a Batman game whatsoever, but it didn't take me too long to figure out why he suggested it to me, because at its core, they're the same game. There's QuickTime events involved in this, and for the most part, they involve things around the conversation, and what choices you make as you're having these conversations will impact the storyline and the way other characters interact with you. It's a really remarkable conversation system, and it's super cool that you actually kind of get to mold and shape this character's story in Alex. I don't want to tell you too much about the story, because if you haven't played it, I really don't want to spoil anything, but suffice it to say, this is a supernatural story, and that's literally as far as I'm going to go with it. Make sure you get used to the radio mechanic, make sure you are interacting with your environment, and you're not missing out on conversation cues, because those can impact the story. This is a $10 game. It's $9.99. It's an absolutely magnificent story, and something that takes a gimmicky gameplay element like a QuickTime event where conversation options will fade and make them critical to the game's success. It's brilliant. I do love a good arcade racer, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think there are any better in the history of video games than the Need for Speed series, and one of my all-time favorites is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. With a remastered version released in 2020, I was stoked because the games are just spectacular. They're super fun with amazing cars to choose from, all kinds of exotic cars, and you can choose to either play as a normal racer or you can play as the police. There's actually 2 different career modes that you can go through with about 15 to 20 hours of total gameplay. It's a really interesting title with a lot of different racy types that you're going to be able to find and go through and choose on a map if you really want to, or you can just go into free drive and drive over, I think there's over like 100 miles of road for you to drive on this, and it looks like the Pacific Northwest, so it's gorgeous to look at. I really appreciate this one because it's got all the DLC from the original Need for Speed Hot Pursuit release that when it came out in 2010. So you've got all that stuff packed in with this. You've got everything from jump, and it's just gorgeous. Like, the fact that this looks as good as it does on the Switch, that's pretty remarkable in the grand scheme of things. I mean, granted, this is a game originally from 2010, but this remastered edition is beautiful. This is a $39.99 game, and if that's giving you pause, I will say toss it on a wish list because it goes on sale pretty frequently, and it always comes out at a great price. Like, I think I got this for $8 a few months ago. It's definitely worthwhile. Now, I've featured some pretty ridiculously named video games on this series in the past, but I think Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill's Slaps and Beans 2 might take the cake, because this is... oh boy, this is such a strangely named game. And it's such a strangely named game for something that is just incredible. This is legitimately one of the best beat-em-ups I have ever played. You're going through the game and there's just this incredible array of combat. You have standard beat-em-up fare, stuff that you're used to. You know, your standard punches, your standard jumps, your standard blocks, things like that, but you're also going to have the ability to charge up attacks and use those in combat, or to pick up weapons and use those, but then there's also these beat-em-up based mini-games that take place in the regular game as you're going through. Like, there's one where I was playing and I had to knock back shots at somebody as they were throwing things at me. It's off the wall. It's not a serious game whatsoever. It does not take itself seriously, nor should it. It's called Slaps and Beans. And it's something where when I saw it offered and I asked for the review code, I was like, this is going to go one of two ways. This is going to be just ridiculous and not a great game, or it's going to be ridiculous and brilliant. And I am so happy to say that it is 1000% ridiculous and brilliant. Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill's Slaps and Beans 2 is a $19.99 beat-em-up. Again, thank you to the publisher for the review code. Check this one out, because it's fantastic. Okay, bonus here after the fact. Just discovered as I was doing research after I recorded my audio that this is based on a series of films from the 70s and 80s made in Italy. This is ridiculous. Just insanity. This is insanity distilled down into video game form. There are few games that I've been more excited about this year than Sea of Stars. This is developed by Sabotage Studios, the team behind The Messenger, and when this got announced, I was ecstatic because this is a game that's tailor-made for me. It's a turn-based RPG with timing elements akin to Paper Mario or Super Mario RPG. The characters are memorable and well-designed, the world is full and huge and has an incredible lore, and it ties directly in to one of my favorite video games, The Messenger. There's a demo available for this game, and I'm not going to tell you too much about it because I think the story is that important that if you do get interested in it, you need to have the opportunity to play it yourself because it's just an amazing game. The combat in the game itself is fantastic, with a wonderful turn-based system where you need to be using both your standard just turn-based combat as well as the different skills you have assigned to you to not only defeat the enemies, but also use interrupts on the enemies. So when they're using a special move, you actually have to perform your moves to interrupt them from casting that spell or using that action to make their combat less beneficial. There's a lot going on in the game. Not only is there that, but there's also a great cooking mini game. There's a fun game called Reels, I think it's called, which is a mini game that happens in all of the taverns in the game where you're able to... It's like this game's Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII. It's a fantastic game. I've legitimately loved every second I've played of it. I've got about 15 hours into the game now, and I don't feel as if I've scratched the surface yet. It's amazing. It's $34.99. And to me, that feels like it's too low because it's that good. You'll be seeing this game again before the end of the year. This is in top contention for my game of the year.
There you have it, my friends, 10 fantastic eShop games you should be picking up right now for your Nintendo Switch. I'm actually on a work trip right now, and I like to travel light with my video games, so I am especially excited to have featured these 10 games because I've played all of them so far on this trip. Let me know in the comments down below your favorite game that I featured this month. Let me know, as always, if there are any suggestions that you have for this video for future iterations. And until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.